Wow, what an opening. Thank you to Moran, Nitzan Choir. Thank you so much. Every journey begins with a first step, and so it was with Jerusalem. Nearly 4,000 years ago, Abraham ascended the hills of Moriah with his son Isaac, seeking to connect with the divine. It was the first step towards what would become the heart of Jerusalem, the Temple Mount. 1,000 years later, King David, warrior, poet, visionary, took his own first steps toward Jerusalem. The city of David would not only become the seat of his palace, discovered just a few feet from where we stand today, but also the eternal, undivided capital of Israel. A city that unites together, and in the words of the prophet Isaiah, a house of prayer for all nations. 2,000 years ago, during the holiest Jewish festivals, millions of pilgrims, men, women, children, and families from around the world traveled to Jerusalem to begin their sacred journey here in the city of David. Immersing in the Pool of Siloam, they then ascended the pilgrimage road on their way to the Temple Mount, to the house of God. Centuries later, Jerusalem's legacy would echo across oceans. When America's founding fathers envisioned a shining city on a hill, they looked to Jerusalem as their inspiration, the moral bedrock of the Judeo-Christian heritage. At the very heart of American exceptionalism is rooted right here in the city of David. Recognized in 2020 by President Donald Trump as an American heritage site. And now, we stand at another historic threshold. Today, we celebrate the completion of the first phase of the Pilgrimage Road excavation. From the Pool of Siloam to the footsteps of the Temple Mount, despite the best efforts of those who seek to deny, distort, or erase Jerusalem's biblical heritage, and the millennia-old bond of the Jewish people with the city, this is our answer. This is a triumph of archaeology, of faith, and of vision. It honors every step that brought us here, from Abraham to David, from ancient pilgrims to our modern-day partners and supporters. And yet, this is only the beginning. The road ahead, both literal and symbolic, is still unfolding. Together, we will follow where it leads, unearthing not only the stones of our past, but the very flagstones that will guide our steps for generations to come.
Every flagstone, similar but so different, represents us as human beings, as people. Remembering our ancestors walking upon these flagstones together, fulfilling the essence of Jerusalem in a sense of humbleness and modesty, no matter what they thought or believed, uniting all of us together. That is the first step one has to walk before uniting with what they want to unite up above.
All those hundreds of thousands of people who used to come here and walk from the Pool of Siloam on the pilgrimage road all the way up to the Temple Mount. People from all over the world.
At the city of David, we are not just digging and uncovering the past, but our future.
אתה נכנס לישון אחרי 2000 שנה ורואה מה העם שלך עבר. לראות את החורבן בעיניים. רואים שכבה של 10 סנטים של אפר שחור פחם.
Just to hold the proof of everything I've learned in life in my hands.
כל הזמן מוצאים דברים, כתובת בעברית, כלים מאבן.
מצאתי במקום אחד 50 מטבעות. מקום אחד. זה מרגש.
ללכת ברחוב הזה ולדמיין שאבות אבותיי לפני 2000 שנה הלכו פה, ממש מרגש.
אני רואה פסוקי התנ"ך מול העיניים. לגלות וללטש ולחשוף את היהלום של היהדות.
כבר במשך שנתיים בלחימה. אנחנו באמת מקריבים המון מעצמנו. אי אפשר להרגיש שלמים אם לא כל הנקודות מתחברות, ואני חושבת שהנקודות מתחברות בדיוק כאן. מה שאנשים עשו לפני 2000 שנה, בשביל מה שהם נלחמו, זה מה שאני נלחמת עליו היום.
זה בעצם 600 מטר החשובים ביותר בחיים הרוחניים של עם ישראל.
כל הרחוב כמו שהוא נמצא. לא נגענו בו כי הוא זה. הרחוב אותנטי. יש לנו פה 10,000 טון אבן. 9 מטר אורך, 1.5 מטר גובה. קשה להבין איך עשו את זה מבחינה טכנית. כמה היה אכפת לעם היהודי להגדיל ולפאר את ירושלים.
חפרנו כל הלילה בשכיבה. הארכיאולוגים היו גמורים. אמרתי להם, אתם לא שומעים את הקבוצה ממול? גם אני לא שמעתי. כשכבר כולם היו כמעט מיואשים לגמרי, פתאום ראיתי את נצנוץ הפנס, והבנתי שאנחנו מתחברים.
זה הרגע השיא.
וואו. Yeah. He was very happy to be here. It's what we are here, the city of David. All our history shows it's our land. Every Jew should walk here.
היו הרבה התנגדויות מצד האסלאם הקיצוני שנעצור את הפרויקט. בג"ץ אמר תמשיכו, זה אוצר בינלאומי. כרגע אנחנו עומדים לסיים את המטר האחרון של החיבור לכניסה להר בית.
אין בן אדם אחד שאתה לא מספר לו מה שקורה פה, שהוא נשאר אדיש.
The millions will come over here, standing on these stones, understanding the fact that you are temporarily over here, and there's one thing you should do and have to do while you're here, and that is being good. That connects to the essence of Jerusalem. Salem, Shalem, is whole.
Throughout his leadership, he has championed Jerusalem's standing as the eternal capital of the State of Israel, most memorably through his close partnership with President Donald Trump, which culminated in the historic move of the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. This past Jerusalem Day, he chose to convene his cabinet here in the city of David, personally walking the pilgrimage road to highlight its profound symbolism. Please join me in welcoming Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio and his wife Janet, Ambassador Huckabee and his wife Janet, Yechiel Leiter, our ambassador to the United States, and our distinguished ministers here, Gideon Sar and his wife Geula, and I see our mayor and the chief of the Knesset. I can't see anyone, by the way, I'm totally blinded here. And I see many distinguished guests, many old friends. In 1998, I hosted the Prime Minister of Turkey. His name was Yilmaz. We had wonderful relations with Turkey at the time. They have not withstood this test of time. But at the time, they were very good. And after a wonderful dinner, the Prime Minister's residence, we had coffee in the living room. And I said, Prime Minister, I have a favor to ask you. And he said, yes, go ahead. And I said, there is a tablet, a stone tablet in Hebrew that was found in the tunnel that we have just, it's right here, that was dug 2,700 years ago by King Hezekiah. That's 300 years after King David. And it marks the place where two teams of diggers met, just as was described here, two teams of archaeological workers. They met when they dug this channel underneath Jerusalem to connect it to the water source and the Pool of Siloam. It would be completely underground, safe from enemies. And when the two teams heard one another, they started digging towards each other, and at the place where they met and completed the tunnel, they put this tablet in Hebrew, the Bible speaking to us, because that channel, the digging of that channel is described in the Bible. And here we see that in biblical Hebrew, perhaps except the Dead Sea Scrolls, the most important archaeological discovery in Israel. And I said, look, I have a proposal for you. You know, we have thousands of Ottoman artifacts in our museums. Choose any one you want. You can get it. It's yours. And let's do an exchange. And he said, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that. And I said, well, take all the artifacts in our museums. And he said, no, I can't do that. And I said, well, name your price. And he said, Prime Minister Netanyahu, there is no price. And I said, why? He said, well, there is a growing Islamist constituency headed by the then mayor of Istanbul, you know his name. And there would be outrage from this section of the Turkish people that we would give Israel a tablet that would show that Jerusalem was a Jewish city 2,700 years ago. Well, it was a Jewish city 3,000 years ago. And we just passed over here the shaft in which David's general, Joab, climbed with some brave soldiers to conquer the city from within. David declared it its capital. Jerusalem, D.C., David's capital. And here, right next to these stones, and on these pavements, the prophets of Israel prophesied, the kings of Israel walked, the pilgrims came, and some of the most poetic psalms and prophecies and proverbs in the history of humanity were written, inspiring not only our people, but all of humanity. And this continued for 1,000 years into the time of Jesus, a Jewish rabbi from the Galilee who came here to Jerusalem, the Holy of Holies, and he came here to that pool in Siloam to be purified, where he also performed the miracle of helping the blind see. And then they would walk up the road to this place. That was all brought to an end by the great rebellion of the Jews against the Romans in 70 AD. And when we tread on these stones, you will find a hole there, some holes, because the Jews hid in the spaces below the stones. We found a Roman sword there. The Jews fought bravely, but the Romans were absolutely merciless. And they killed hundreds of thousands of Jews, including those hiding below the Pilgrim's Road. Now, 2,000 years later, we recovered our city. We recovered our independence. We built our sovereign state anew. We built an army. And we built a country like no other. But this country is based on those 2,000 years of yearning. Next year in Jerusalem, next year in Jerusalem. It didn't matter if you were in the ghetto in Toledo or the ghetto in Warsaw. That's what Jews prayed for. Next year in Jerusalem. Well, we're here. This is our city, Mr. Erdogan. It's not your city. It's our city. It will always be our city. It will not be divided again. And that's why I so much appreciate the leadership of President Trump in this area as well, when he declared Jerusalem our capital, something that should have been acknowledged by every leader in the world, but he did it. and then moved the American embassy here. He did things that are so obvious and yet defied all these governments, all these foreign chancelleries, all these experts who said, you cannot do that. He called me up before he did it. He asked, what do you think? I said, well, you know, would there be riots? Would there be bloodshed? I said, I don't think so. But if there will be, it'll be primarily directed at us, and we are definitely ready. So he just did it. And I welcome today the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, who understands that this is the foundation of our common Judeo-Christian heritage. It is being challenged today. It's being challenged by a growing Islamist force. It's being challenged by the unity of the Islamists with the ultra-left. They both deny our patrimony. They both deny our heritage. And they are putting all the pressure on European leaders and others who, weak-kneed, are suggesting that we divide Jerusalem. They're suggesting that we plant a Palestinian state committed to our destruction right here. And we say any unilateral action can be met with unilateral action. This is our city. It is forever our city. It will never be divided again, and there will be no Palestinian state. In that, with that brief commercial, I want to thank the donors, the diggers, the people who committed so much of their lives to this incredible foundation of our civilization and of the Jewish people. You deserve, Davidale, you deserve the eternal gratitude of Jews and Christians and free men and women alike. Thank you all. Thank you, and Am Yisrael Chai, and Jerusalem lives in our hearts. Thank you.
מעל פסגת הר הצופים אשתחווה לך אפיים מעל פסגת הר הצופים שלום לך ירושלים אלפי דורות חלמתי עלייך לזכות לראות באור פנייך ירושלים ירושלים העיר פנייך לפני ירושלים חנוכה ירושלים אני לא אזוז מפה יבוא המשיח
Incredible. Throughout his distinguished career, Secretary Rubio has been a steadfast friend of Israel and a tireless champion of the U.S.-Israel alliance. A decade ago, when members of the U.S. Senate were being discouraged from visiting the city of David, then Senator Rubio spearheaded the efforts to not only visit himself, but to bring many others with him over the years. His commitment to Jerusalem and to the unbreakable bond between our nations has been unwavering. Please join me in welcoming Secretary Marco Rubio.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's truly a pleasure and an honor to be here today on this important occasion. It's Mr. Prime Minister and Ms. First Lady, thank you for joining us. To my wife, Jeanette, who has also been able to be a part of it and has been a big supporter and frequent visitor as well here to this such a special project. To our ambassador, Ms. Huckabee, thank you as well for joining us here tonight. I come on behalf of the United States of America and of our president, who I spoke to about 2 hours ago and told him I would be visiting here, who sends his highest regards and deepest admiration and congratulations on what is being celebrated here this evening. I come as the Secretary of State as a nation that was founded 249 years ago, 250 years next year. We'll be celebrating that. I know that that is young by your standards, but from our purposes, it's a special occasion. And one in which it's important for us to be reminded upon what it is our nation, the United States, was founded on. The United States was founded on a powerful idea, defined not by geography, ethnicity, or anything else. It was founded on the very powerful principle that the rights of mankind comes from their Creator. Now, perhaps that principle today is taken for granted, but when those words were written 250 years ago, it was a revolutionary idea. Up until that point, every man, woman, and child largely that had ever lived on the earth was governed by people they did not choose and had no role in picking, and over whom they had little influence. And change came not through elections or at the ballot box, but through wars and through conquest. And so the idea that somehow our rights, our dignity, our value as a human being was rooted in the fact that our rights came from our Creator. That was a revolutionary idea 250 years ago, one that I believe helped change the world. But that idea did not come from the ether. It did not come from someone's imagination. It was deeply rooted in the traditions, in the teachings of ancient words, thousands and thousands of years, that find its genesis here, literally on the very spot on which I stand. For it was here that God fulfilled his promise to his people. It was here that the lessons that form the base rock and the foundations of our laws, of the principles upon which we decide what is right and what is wrong, was built upon. If you think about the things that today we in civilized societies use as rules to govern us, these things did not come because good people wrote them. They came because they were rooted in ancient teachings that found its genesis here, not just in the city, but literally on the very spot on which we stand. It's an interesting thing about humanity. almost anywhere in the world you go, and there are some incredible archaeological sites around the planet. I believe none as important as this one. But it is stunning how many of these archaeological sites, be they pyramids in Central America or pyramids in Egypt not far from here, were in some ways all defined by the desire to get closer to the divine. Something is programmed in the DNA of us as creatures that yearns to be closer to our Creator. This has been true across societies forever. But it was here where a road led God's people to their Creator. It was here that a road that led them to be as close as they possibly could. Not just to the Creator of our species, but of the heavens and the earth and all the universe. And it strikes me as we stand here today to inaugurate this pilgrimage road, we are reminded that truly we are all pilgrims, seeking our own road towards our Creator, towards the divine. For deep inside of us, we all know that we were created for a purpose and for a reason, that our dignity comes from our Creator. We deeply believe in our country as a founding principle from the God of Abraham and Isaac. And to stand here today on the very road where not 2,000 years ago, so many from everywhere ventured to fulfill that desire to be closer to the Creator is a humbling and honoring experience. One more thing of note. This is a fascinating city. I joke, but maybe not joke, that you really, I live in Miami. If you dig a couple feet, you'll hit coral rock. Here, if you dig a couple feet, you'll hit history. So much of the city is built, has been described to be almost as a birthday cake. Layers and layers of human history. And for that, we're incredibly grateful. To be able to see the work that went into this project, and to see not just stones, not just ruins, but from this very site to be able to touch a road and stones and the remnants of construction that give word and give life to teachings that we've heard our entire life. To be able to touch and walk upon roads and stand next to not just symbols, not just historic artifacts, but to things that bring to life the ancient lessons and ancient teachings that have guided our societies for thousands of years, without which America, an exceptional nation, never would have been possible, is a humbling and moving experience. But one more thing is striking. As you go through the layers of history, you realize that all the civilizations that conquered this city, all the ones who tore it down and built on top, are all gone. The Roman Empire is no more, nor any of the others that sought to conquer and rule this land. But one people remain. They have returned. For God's promise is eternal, and it is perfect, and His word is always true. And I'm honored to be a part of its fulfillment here with you tonight. Thank you.
After David played, and it pleased them, but you don't really care for music, do you? It goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, the major lift, the baffled king, composing hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. soaring, honoring your beauty and the moonlight of a tree. She tied you to a kitchen chair, she broke your fall, and she cut your hair, and from your lips she drew the hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. שמעתי שדוד הנים אקורד פלאים לאלוהים, ושתה שונא דוד ידוע. אקורד עגום ומסתורי מינו נופל, משור ממריא ומלך מבולבל שר הללויה.
Wow, Arik Sinai, incredible, goosebumps. Neve Oz, the choir, thank you so much. Not on the script, but we are experiencing something magical here tonight. We're making history. For decades, Ambassador Huckabee has been one of Israel's most devoted friends, visiting Jerusalem countless times and championing its central place in the story of the Jewish people. In fact, Ambassador Huckabee has likely led more tours of the city of David over the years than some of our own tour guides. As America's representative here, he brings not only diplomacy, but a deep personal love for this land and for this city. Please join me in welcoming Ambassador Mike Huckabee.
What an honor to be here for this incredible ceremony. Mr. Prime Minister, Secretary Rubio, all of the wonderful people who made this possible by their generosity, contributing to something that is historic and something that is a living memorial of what God has done. It was 4,000 years ago here in this city on Mount Moriah where God chose his people. He not only chose a people, but he chose a place. And then he chose for the people in this place a purpose. The people were the Jewish people. The place was Israel. And the purpose was to be a light to the world and to show that we don't have to look for God because he is looking for us. And that is what so separates the long history of why this city is so important. It's also a reminder to us that this little bitty sliver of real estate on the vast planet Earth is the most contested piece of land in all of human history. Not because of just those who want it, but because of those who don't want the Jewish people to have it. But tonight, something is extraordinary that we celebrate. For 3,000 years ago, David established his kingdom here. And 2,000 years ago, the world, through the Romans, decided we'll get rid of the Jews. And they destroyed this place. And they scattered the Jewish people across the planet. But that wasn't the end of the story. Tonight, we're sitting here because the story is not just alive. It's more alive than perhaps it has been in the 4,000 years that God chose his people, his place, his purpose. And it is an extraordinary thing to behold. Tonight, I'm reminded of the day that the embassy was dedicated in 2018. I was so grateful to President Trump for making the bold and courageous decision that despite all of the opposition across the planet, he was going to move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, as he should. Other presidents promised it, but they always found a reason to back away. President Trump made a promise, and he kept the promise. And on the day that we were here, and I was overwhelmed with emotion as I sat at the dedication of the embassy having moved to Jerusalem, there was a young man in the crowd, and he was exuberant. He was an American, and he was looking around and he said, "Wow, I've been waiting 20 years for this to happen." Sheldon Adelson, who along with his wife Miriam, who is here tonight, major contributors to this incredible excavation. Sheldon, who I absolutely adored because he was one of the funniest men I've ever known. When the young man said, "Wow, I've waited 20 years for this," Sheldon, in his very dry way, just looked and said, "Son, we've been waiting 2,000 years for this." What a great reminder that the Jewish people are a patient people. And tonight there's something extraordinary, truly extraordinary, to celebrate. It was David, the king and the psalmist, who said in Psalm 137 and verse 5, "If I forget you, O Jerusalem, may my right hand forget its skill." The Jewish people never forgot that this was their land, their home, their undivided, indisputable, indigenous capital from eternity. And tonight, something truly extraordinary happens. It is often said that history is to a civilization what memory is to the individual. If any of us were to wake up tomorrow and not remember where we lived or who we were or who that woman is that is living in our house because we didn't know her to be our wife, amnesia is a horrible thing to have because one is disoriented, lost, completely unable to make a connection just to the simplest things of life. But history is to a civilization what memory is to the individual. And tonight, this is a celebration of the history of Jerusalem. There is a verse in the New Testament, in Luke, verse 40 of chapter 19, and it says this: "If the crowds keep quiet, the stones will cry out. If the crowds don't acknowledge it, the stones will cry out." Tonight, the stones are crying out. The crowds may say it, but the stones absolutely and 100% validate that the Jewish people not only belong here now, but they have belonged here for 4,000 years since the time God said to Abraham, "This is yours. Take good care of it. And you'll be a blessing to the people around the earth." And even to those of us who aren't even Jewish. He says, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. And I come here tonight because I'd rather have a blessing than a curse. I recognize that this extraordinary excavation is not just dust and stone. It is a living speech in which God is crying out through the very stones to say to the world, this magnificent excavation, this extraordinary piece of archaeological mastery is a validation and a truth, and it is shouting from the top of the mountain that this is indeed the eternal home of the Jewish people, the Jewish state, and the people who rightly belong here. And tonight the rest of the world comes to say, welcome home, and may no one ever, ever attempt to take your home from you. It is yours. And those of us who are not Jewish, we thank you for giving all of us a foundation of morality and decency and civilization upon which our own faith is built, for without yours, we don't have one. As I often tell my Jewish friends, you can be Jewish, you don't need me. But I cannot be who I am in my faith without the debt of obligation that I owe to you for having listened to God and been willing to be obedient to Him when He called you to this place as His people for His eternal, everlasting purpose. And I salute you and join you tonight in the celebration of this wonderful, magnificent, incredible reminder that God never has been finished with Israel, and He never will be. This is the eternal home that He has chosen. God bless you all.
There was a time when there was nothing here. Just a slope, a few broken walls, a dusty parking lot. But the earth remembers. She always remembers. Beneath the silence, she hid a story. A story that began thousands of years ago. Right here, in this very place, pilgrims once walked on their way to the Temple Mount. From the Pool of Siloam to the Holy of Holies. 1 million people each year, on foot. And when we started this project, it wasn't to build another tower, not another wall or another fortress. It was to uncover the road of identity, the road of faith, the road of unity, the pilgrimage road, the path walked by generations of believers. This, my dear friends, is where it all began.
To dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go, to write the unwritable too weary to reach the unreachable star.
This road is not only stone, it is the heartbeat of Jerusalem. For centuries, it carried songs, prayers, and dreams. It was the road of faith, the path of believers ascending to the mountain. It was the road of the people, the footsteps of millions year after year. It was the road of hope, sustaining generations in exile. And it remains the road of identity, binding us to ourselves. These stones still echo the voice of memory, the voice of spirit, the voice of our future.
This is my quest to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And I know if I only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart lies peaceful and calm when I lay to my rest.
And to enable millions to once again walk this road, we will establish here, right where we're seated, the new Center for the Pilgrimage Experience. A place where students and soldiers and everyone will dig and uncover their own history. The Kedem Center will be the new gateway to the old city. Millions of people annually. A cable car will bring 3,000 people per hour, connecting biblical Jerusalem, Mount Zion, the city of David, the Western Wall, and the Mount of Olives. Here, people, visitors, will meet their past, not only with their eyes, but with their steps. And at the very heart, the pilgrimage road, not as a symbol, but as a living path, linking the present to the ancient.
This is my quest to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And I know if I'd only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart lies peaceful and calm when I lay to my rest.
This road, ladies and gentlemen, is not just a discovery. It is a declaration. It says, we are here, walking in the footsteps of our ancestors. It binds Jerusalem to herself, stone to soul. And for the first time in 2,000 years, this journey is real, open, ours.
בירושלים ישנו איש לגמרי לא צעיר שבנה בבתים בכל פינות העיר הוא מכיר כל סמטה כל רחוב ושכונה הוא בונה את העיר בשירים
beautiful people, is the pilgrimage road. This is Jerusalem. It is not an impossible dream. It is a living path, and it's now open to the entire world.
And to dream the impossible.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor and privilege to welcome the chairman of the City of David Foundation, David Davidele Be'eri. Not yet. He wants me to stop, but we're not going to stop. Together with his wife Michal, for decades Davidele has devoted his life to uncovering and preserving the ancient heritage of Jerusalem, with significance to billions worldwide, transforming the city of David into one of the world's most foremost heritage and tourist sites. A recipient of the Israel Prize, Israel's highest civilian honor, he is the individual most responsible for making today's historic gathering possible. Please join me in welcoming Davidele Be'eri.
Thank you very much. I'm not going to give a speech, but just to be a mensch and to thank our partners. So first of all, I want to thank our friends from America that honored us by coming to this event. So thank you very much. Secretary Rubio and his wife, Jeanette. Ambassador Akabi and his wife, Jeanette, our Prime Minister, Bibi Netanyahu, and his wife, Sarah, that you have to know, he carried her on his shoulder on a pit here, close to here. How many years ago? 20, something like that. Like you have Mensruya, they captured the city from the chef. I want to thank the Speaker of the Knesset, Hannah, and all the ministers that came to honor us. And a special thanks to our donors that really they are friends, partners, family, and without them, I'm not standing here in celebration this night. So thank you, all our donors. I want to say a few words in Hebrew to our workers that make it happen. And they are the main שחקנים הראשיים של הערב הזה. אני יודע ששום דבר לא קשה בשבילכם. אין משימה שאתם לא עומדים בה. אני יודע שאתם עובדים עם כל הלב, וזה הזמן, כשסיימנו את הפרק הזה, להגיד לכם תודה בשמי, בשם עיר דוד, בשם ירושלים, ובשם כל העם היהודי. אנחנו נעשה אירוע מיוחד בשבילכם, כי באמת אתם השחקנים הראשיים, ולכל מי שעזר לערב הזה לקרות, יש הרבה אנשים שיעבדו פה, קשה מאוד. תודה לכולם. I want to thank our partners, the Israel Antiquity Authority and the chairman, Elias Cozido, the Israel National Park, and her chairwoman, Raya, Shorky, and the company of building the Jewish quarter of the old city, and the Davidson Jerusalem Archaeological Park. Thank you for your partnership, working together, and making it happen. This is a I want to thank our mayor of Jerusalem, Moshe Leon, and his wife David. I want to thank the police that never say no, and the commander Dvir, and a special thanks to our producer of this evening, Ran Tzachor, that work days and night and give all his heart and soul that this has happened. Thank you, Ran. Thank you very much.
First row to please stand up. Davidile in the first row to please stand up. I'd like to invite everyone to start going row by row this way towards the opening of the pilgrimage road. Davidile, if you would lead everyone. Please do not push. Please go row by row. Let the first row go first. Please walk across the stage this way while they're singing. Everyone is invited.
יגל, כן בשופר, יגל, יגל, כן בשופר, יגל, יגל.
Show.